I'm walking down the street.
I do want to say to Donnie and many of you in this room that over a very long career in this city, all of you have helped me and my colleagues tell the truth and to try to tell.
I may not look like you and you me, but
Take my hat off.
I'm from South Carolina, so I just...
What does this event mean to you, Miss Peggy Mars?
Oh, my heart,
Happy 20th anniversary.
my heart is about loving up on my sisters. Do you know what it feels like to have your sisters in the room? Donnie.
And dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. I am beautiful, I am blessed, but not just what you see in the flesh. I'm free from people, free from myself. There's a
The doctor lived next door to the janitor, to the reverend, and the lawyer. We were together. Now we get so high and mighty that you create stress for your society because you don't like poor black folks either. That's a health problem. Get yourself together so I can stop being taking care of geriatric people and get back to pediatrics. I thank you, Donnie, for all you've done. Let's keep doing it all the more.
letting His glory shine through. Dare to be you, dare to be me, dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. And I dare you, I dare you, I dare you to be you.
We here.
There you go. Harry Evans, how you doing?
You know, other than getting old, Donnie, I'm hanging in there.
All right, all right. So we have the one and only Harry Evans joining us today.
I love this. This. You know what? If things had worked out my way, I would have it set up this way, just this way. This is perfect. This is perfect. I had figured out how to do TV out of the back of a Blazer, a GMC Blazer. Really? I sure did. And you know what? And people were watching. Which I'm not sure if it's a testament to what I was doing or a statement about what was actually out there. But yeah, I have viewers. And you figure if I'm on opposite Roseanne and she's paying $1 million an episode and I get any viewers, really? And I'm
okay. Can I do a proper introduction?
You go ahead, knock yourself out.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have with us today a pioneer. Now, he's only about a year older than me, but he was doing this television thing, that show with those guys.
Black guys.
With those black guys. And this was on, was it Baltimore Cable Access?
I was on cable access everywhere. I was on DC, Baltimore, Atlanta, Philly, Los Angeles, Vegas, Saginaw, Michigan, Detroit. You call it out. I was everywhere. Houston.
And this was in the 90s.
Before the internet even had television. Yeah, sure was.
Wow, you are a pioneer for real. So I stand on some pretty broad shoulders.
There was no, you know what? Talk about trailblazer. There was no trail when I came in there. There was no trail. Nobody was doing what I was doing. Nobody understood what I was doing, which is what got me. When I look, in preparation for this, I had to look back on what led me to this process, what got me here. Man, if I could tell you this story, you just won't believe it. It started out of there was a public, I live in Howard County, and there was a public access grant. Everything in Howard County is transparent. Well, they were giving grants out for the cable system. We have our own little small cable system. They were giving grants out for community-based television shows which met certain criteria. Because this is when we were going before, when cable was really becoming popular. So I went to the guy and see if I could get a grant. And when the guy told me what the grant paid, and he was going to produce the show, tested me. He said, you know what? If I pay you, I don't make no money. So you know what I said? You know, why do I need you? If I'm the talent, we can just get rid of you. And I did the show. They trained us on how to use the equipment right there off of Route 40. And you could reserve the equipment and take the equipment out and set up your own interviews. But the parameters were I couldn't defame, defile. I couldn't belittle, berate. I couldn't advertise, solicit. I couldn't preach on there. You could preach on there, but you really couldn't preach on there and you couldn't sell nothing. So I had to walk a very fine line. So what was I going to talk to? I'm going to talk to black guys. I was going to talk to black guys. Why? Because the image, even today, the image today of African-American men in the media is horrible. Horrible. So let me go opposite to this. And that was my real take. Number one, my real take was the fact I was talking to black guys and they couldn't figure out what we were talking about. The second thing is I chose very interesting locations. I shot it from my patio in Columbia. Why? Because if you know anything about Howard County, they're very aesthetically specific out there. So I live in a grove of pine trees and I do it on my patio and people would come to my house to do a TV show. And one of the things they would say is, why are we coming to your house to do TV? You know why? Because don't act like you're not black and you haven't gone to somebody's house to get your hair cut or to pick up a suit or to get some, what's those holiday buns they used to, some kind of Christmas rolls, a cake. You know, your mother or your sister put their head under that sink at one point. So you used to going to black people's house to get services. So
where are you from?
I'm from Los Angeles via Compton, California.
How was it growing up in Compton?
Let me tell you one thing about growing up in LA. First off, Compton was a segregated city. You don't know that, right? Did you know that?
I didn't.
It was whites and Creoles, light-skinned Creoles, because California is a lot of Louisiana Creoles there. No Mexicans could live in Compton. There were no Mexicans in Compton. I think it was in the charter. Nope. You know what? Compton was a very middle-class city. It's in the middle of LA. It's called the Hub City. It's in the very center of LA. 5 freeways run through Compton. 5 freeways run through Compton. Yep. It ain't the Compton. It ain't the Compton.
And so, how did you get to Baltimore?
I had a GGJ. You know what that stands for?
No.
Good government job.
Okay.
Working for the state of Maryland, working for Baltimore City Department of Social Services.
And I understand that you worked here in West Baltimore.
Absolutely. Upton Social Services, which in retrospect, the actual office was over at on 2521 North Charles Street, where the Afro is now. But once we closed that office, they moved us to Mondawmin, which was a little closer to the people over here. But they had to get up. If they wanted social services, they had to get on the bus up Pennsylvania Avenue and then get on the bus to take them down North Avenue. And then, depending if they had some money, get off at North and Charles and walk them 5 blocks up to 2521 North Charles Street. Really? That's how tone deaf we were. Really? Mm-hmm.
So tell me about the NAACP Image Awards.
Let me tell you this. It's funny how the show picked up. I was at the Black Caucus one of these years, and Kwesi, who you and I both know, visually, well, Kwesi was the man of the hour this particular year. And we were at thank you, Nate Chapman. Nate Chapman gave me an invitation to a reception at the Kennedy Center. Well, the elevator doors opened. And in DC, you can tell how important somebody is by how many people are circling around them. Well, when the elevator door opened, Kwesi came out the elevator. And because I'm tall, he saw me and came straight to me and said, I have a nickname. He called me by my nickname. He said, look, I was in Tulsa or Oklahoma City doing an NAACP gig, and I sat on the edge of the bed and turned the TV on, which is what we do. And I was on their cable system. It's like, really? You're on TV? Yep. So he became a sort of benefactor. He did my show a couple times. And this is when the NAACP was on the networks about how many blacks they were employing and where they were employing them. So I had asked, I said, listen, let me know when the Image Awards call for nominations come out. I said, okay. I can do that. That's because the office was in Baltimore. Do you know the next time I heard the nominations had been called? So I called Kwesi to clap and said, what the hell is this all about? They had hired some woman in LA to do the Image Awards, one of them LA women, okay? Well, they hired her, and she sent the call for nominations to ABC, NBC, CBS, UPN, and Fox. She didn't put it out in the real world. So people like me were locked out. Well, I was going to make an issue of it because I felt that if anybody should back my show, it should be the NAACP. You think? Do you think that? Nope. So what he did was, Kwesi, when I told him how, and he know that I get passionate about something, I said, you know what, I ought to make an issue of this. He said, how about I just give you some tickets and you come to the thing? Okay, fine. I didn't want to make an issue of it, but yeah, that's what happened with the NAACP and the Image Awards. I'll tell you what else. Let me tell you this. You ready?
Okay.
Donnie, my BET experience. This was, on one hand, they liked me. On the other hand, they didn't want to recognize me. I will never forget that they invited me in to interview their new late night host, a brother coming from LA by the name of Tavis Smiley. We want you to have him on your show to introduce him to everybody else. I'm like, okay, no problem. So I go boogity down to BET off of New York Avenue. The first telling sign that it was not going to be good was they couldn't figure out how to turn on the lights in the studio. They were looking for the lights. Really? Well, I did the interview with Tavis. It turned out nice, but I could see then they were having some real issues. Yeah, I could see it then. Absolutely. But I can tell you this, they kept me close at arm's length. Curtis Simon, who was one of their vice presidents, and Jeff Lee, who was one of their vice presidents, both did my show. Both of them did my shows. And both of them made sure that I had access to them. If I needed something, I could call them. Yep. But did they ever ask me to come over there and do my show at BET? No. And that was the big red X that I got, because when people started hearing about my show, when I went to the television convention in New Orleans called NATFE, that's when TV stations used to program their own secondary market shows. When I went to NATFE and presented, I kept getting this one thing. How come you're not on BET? Well, first, my first response to that is all Black programming doesn't belong on BET. That's where you want to put us, but we all don't belong over there in one place. That's the first thing. Second thing, Bob Johnson was not a nice person to deal with in this arena. Although his vice presidents and his ex-wife were very supportive of me, he wasn't supportive at all. He was horrible. If I had, it was D.L. Hughley told me, watch them. I met D.L. Hughley one day at TV at Radio 1. That's another story. And D.L. Hughley knew that I was over at BET doing something, messing around. And he said, you need to watch them. And now I know why. They couldn't figure out how to turn the lights on in the studio. They had all that big finery sitting there, and it's sitting there dark. And everybody's sitting there with their phones in the evening. Really? I got it.
When I first got into media, I remember following you and your work, but I was up at Coppin State under Professor Ron Nichols. The very first thing we did in class was watch The Birth of a Nation by D.W. Griffith.
Supposed to be the greatest movie ever made. Supposed to be. I didn't think so.
It was the worst ever. And then today, they're showing the Emmett Till movie at the White House. So when you look at the history of film, The Birth of a Nation, for those who don't know, by D.W. Griffith, set the framework for stereotypes.
The whole thing, laid it out.
For racial stereotypes that made Black people look bad, big lips, jigaboo, scared of ghosts, poppy-eyed, all of those negative stereotypes, docile.
Desiring white women. Just gotta have them.
How far have we come?
Well, we haven't come that far. We've come far enough, but sometimes I think the enemy is me. Let me tell you something else. Since we're sitting in Baltimore, West Baltimore, ask me about my relationship with TV One.
All right, what's your relationship with? What was your relationship with TV One?
Can I speak like I really want to say what I want to say?
You can do what you want. Just don't talk about my mama.
Listen to this. That heifer used to employ me. She sure did. Let me tell you when, because she's probably somebody gonna call and say he called you a heifer. Well, she sure was. Let me tell you what happened. On WOL, they had a guy that did an afternoon talk show called C Miles.
Can we
C.
find a different name to call her? Can we just say Miss
Well, I'm being very ethnic, you know what? But I'm going for a fact. So look, I didn't use the other one. I'm black. So look, C Miles had a show over at WOL. And when C Miles got into a little situation, they brought me in to cover for C Miles. So I was working there, drawing a check. She only had to call down and say, Yellow Man, come on upstairs with that camera and let's see what we can do. Let's talk about this. I ain't never heard from her. That was one situation. The second situation was they always would call me when they wanted to break a talent. I had George Wallace and what was the guy's name that used to do motivational speaking? What was his name? Gladys Knight's ex-husband. They were doing the mornings on Kathy Hughes station out of Washington. George Wallace, a comedian, and the guy that was married to Les Brown. They brought me in to interview them. And you know who else? The Black Eagle. I interviewed him. Sure did.
Joe Madison.
I tell you what else Kathy Hughes did. Through her station in DC, they had these free promotions with Air Jamaica where they fly you down for the day and fly you back in the evening. And they arranged for me to go on the trip to film the whole thing. So I get out to BWI with the 200, 300 people that they had advertised us on the radio. That was the one day that Air Jamaica was flying Jamaican time. They were 8 hours late leaving, which meant that we'd have 2 hours on the island. So the Air Jamaica woman saying, literally, you Negroes got a free trip to Jamaica. You need to be happy and get out of here. So I turned the camera on and she went from get out of my face to Air Jamaica, the lovebird of the Caribbean, would never want you to forsake your vacation. Here is a free ticket to everyone to go at your leisure to Jamaica. Yeah, sure did. Gave us free linen tickets. They were on linen paper. Sure did. That was my relationship with Kathy Hughes. But she never, ever, ever picked up the phone to say, you know, you have a TV show. You don't have to build a show around me. I had a show. I had viewers. I went to the television convention and came in third where Cheryl Lee Ralph was a judge. You didn't have, all I needed was some structure. I did this on me. That's all I needed was help. No,
how long did you do the show with those black guys?
About 125 episodes. How about that?
And this was, so you, who did you look up to? Who inspired you? Was it Oscar Micheaux?
No, let me tell you, who inspired me? Brian Gumbel, because I grew up in LA and Brian Gumbel was the Negro on the news in LA doing the sports.
I love Brian Gumbel. I don't care what nobody say. I love Brian Gumbel. I loved him.
He gave me some of the best advice. And I was telling you earlier, some of the best advice I got coming in this business came from people who just told me things. Brian Gumbel said to me at the Hyatt Hotel in Baltimore on the Harbor, I told him I had a show and I wanted him to do my show because that would really lend credence to me. A Brian Gumbel, you know, he looked at me and said, I'll do your show, but let me say something to you. Let me give you some advice that your anonymity is like your virginity. You only have it to lose once. And once you lose it, you're going to want it back. So be careful what you're asking for. So yeah, we didn't do the interview. I tell you who I did get an interview out of was James Brown from Fox Sports. That brother made my day. I had gone to a party with Beverly Burke in Washington. She was at USA. And James Brown, you and I both know who James Brown is from Fox Sports. We see him every Sunday. Well, he was going to the bar. And I figured if there was ever an opportunity for me to snag an interview, I had to make my long legs stretch to get me to the bar at the same time he walked up there because I could engage conversation. But much to my surprise, when I walked up to him and looked at him, he said, "You're that guy with that TV show." I said, "How do you know?" He said, "You know what? Here we go again. You're on in LA," which I was. And when I get to the hotel on Friday evenings coming into LA to do the Fox Sports for the weekend, I sit on the bed and turn my TV on and start channel surfing. And I run across you. I said, "Really?" "Yep." I said, "You want to do my show?" He said, "Absolutely." came, let me tell you, very helpful. Tina, a sister by the name of Tina Rockman. She had an art gallery in Potomac. Phenomenal sister. It was an art gallery, $5,000 and $6,000 and $10,000 pictures. She allowed me to shoot my TV show in her art gallery. Beautiful. And not only was James Brown there, but Michael Steele was there. Michael Steele
Get
showed
out.
up. Oh my God, yes. Michael Steele had me on his resume. First national show he did. I tell you who else did my show? Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry. I had Tyler Perry in LA. I had a hookup in LA because if you understand how cable works, they all have studios, but you're just very limited as to what you can put in the studio and how you can do it. But they've got people, employees sitting there like BCAC did back in the day. So I went at the Crenshaw Shopping Center. That's where the studios were for LA Cable, the Crenshaw Shopping Center, which I grew up in that neighborhood. So I had Tyler Perry on, and I had a guy by the name of Brad Sanders. Tyler Perry was before Medea. There was no Medea. He was out there. He was in LA at that point to negotiate those Medea deals. That's what he was doing. He talked on it. Yeah, that's what he was there doing. And Brad Sanders was this brother who had this he had this segment that would come on in the afternoon called All My Children, something All My Children's Report, where he would actually give a black synopsis of All My Children or The Young and the Restless. Yeah.
So Harry, what now?
What now? And you know what? I'm so done with this. I'm so done with this. You know, because I don't see where I fit in. Because I don't want to come in slashing.
You are a legend, Harry. You inspired people. Look, you inspired people you don't even remember.
There are people I want to interview. There are interviews I could get if I had structure. Sure. Let me tell you something. And I figured out, just like Southwest Airlines figured out how to fly you to Dallas for a lot less than Delta, I figured out how to do TV that people would watch for a lot less than they charge to WJZ. Speaking of which, I told you earlier, Vic Carter's first interview when he got to Baltimore was on my show. Marcellus Alexander, who was a great benefactor. Locally.
He was the first black general manager in Baltimore of a TV station.
He watched my show in Columbia. Marcellus Alexander set that up. And think about this. He allowed me to come to WJZ, a union house. Very notable, the home of Oprah. He allowed me to come there and sit on his set with his new talent, Vic Carter, who, this is right after that guy had just died on the air.
Marcellus Alexander opened the door for me at Channel 13. Yes, he did. I was an intern at Coppin.
But I tell you what else. I tell you what else happened. After I did the interview with Vic Carter, I got a call from one of their little news directors. You know, they float in and out at the whim of a hat. And she said, we like what you did with Vic, and we'd like to see if we could fit you in. But are you good at anything other than black people? Like, really? Yeah. No, so I never heard back from him. So there it is.
So you have been unapologetically black your entire career.
What else am I going to be? Why do you think the show got that name? Because when I looked at what the product was and when people had to describe it to somebody, what were they going to say? Donnie, they were going to say, you know, that show with those black guys or the other one. And I own that name. I own that name. name.
There's so many questions. I mean, so who didn't you interview?
I had Eric Holder. I had Grover Washington before he died. I have Jerry Butler on tape. I did the Million Man March. And
you said you have them on tape.
Yep.
What kind of tape?
Listen, are you ready for this? On 3/4 inch digital tape. Why? Videotape, because that's what they were giving me. What's the old girl that used to work at Channel 11? Wanda Draper. Wanda Draper was a wonderful supporter of mine because they were going from videotape to digital, and they were throwing them away. So because the lawyer said they couldn't just give it to me, they'd bring me up there, give me lunch, and then point to the dumpster as the gopher took the tapes out and threw the tapes in the dumpster. Yep, that's how I got the tapes.
Tell me about Wanda Draper. She gave me my first shots on television.
She was wonderful to me. She was wonderful to me.
She is okay. She is alive, you know.
She was wonderful to me. I'm just saying she's not at Channel 11 anymore, but she was wonderful.
No, she retired.
Yeah, absolutely. She was wonderful, as well as old boy at WMAR, Drew Barry.
Drew Barry. Yes, they were. So Wanda Draper, I interviewed her once, and that's all it took. But usually the camera had been on me, but when I put the camera on her, she showed me poise.
Yeah.
She showed me diction. She showed me flow. She showed me to connect the thoughts. She was smooth. It was what they say, don't let the smooth taste fool you. You meet her, you know.
She was consummate. She was consummate.
Consummate professional.
Consummate, yeah. And it didn't hurt that her husband was a frat brother of mine. So that made it even better.
Dr. Draper.
Yeah,
Dr. Draper.
She was very nice to me. And I just look back now and say the people who were nice to me that didn't have to be nice were. But the people who weren't, sure, I'm going to tell the truth. Yeah, they leave a lot to be desired.
Harry, I went to her house once. The foyer was bigger than my whole damn house.
Give you something to live for. But, you know, I just tell you this. When I look back at who was nice and who wasn't nice and who could have helped and who didn't help. When I went to the television convention and came in number 3, the chief judge was Cheryl Lee Ralph. Cheryl Lee Ralph. I came in number 3. Let me tell you what I think kept me from winning. One of the panelists asked me, what are you going to talk about that's going to hold interest? First and foremost, African Americans are very loyal viewers. If we turn a TV on and we see a Negro, you and I are of the same age, we would yell it out the window, there's a Negro on TV. Okay, so that's the first thing. And the second thing, once you realize there was a black person, you realize what were they doing and what were they talking about? Was it somebody I knew or somebody I didn't know? If it was somebody I didn't know, why should I know them? Why are they on TV? This is where that show with those black guys came in, because I brought in the Undertaker, the podiatrist, the bail bondsman.
What Undertaker? My daddy was Undertaker. What Undertaker?
You mean Harry Close. Harry Close.
Harry Close. Harry
Close, because you know what? If you don't understand that game, you need to understand the game, because Maryland's one of the states where they actually have black morticians. We still have them here. But there's a corporation that owns a lot of these mortuaries, and
the one in Texas.
Yeah, it's a huge corporation, and they buy
SMC. We know them.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I wanted.
It's a conglomerate, and they seek to eliminate the black film director. They seek to eliminate.
I wanted Harry Close to talk to us about why we need to take our business to black morticians. I wanted the late Lloyd Bowser to talk about why we need to go to a black podiatrist and what's better for our feet. Cole Haans, it costs $200, or something that's held together by a string at Payless. And guess what's better for your feet? It's the part that got me. Ready for this? It does not matter what the outside looks like, because the outside is just the outside. It's the inside, and the inside is always some man-made fabric. Either it breathes or it doesn't. And here's the bottom line. If the shoe doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. Doesn't mean how much you paid for it. If it hurts, it hurts. And you know that well. If a shoe hurt and you paid $200 for it, nope. I worked at social service, and I had a kid who had some Timbs, and he had cardboard in the bottom of the Timbs. And we got some free boots from somewhere, like Durangos. They gave us some boots. And we made sure this boy got some boots, because his feet, you can't have a foot that's balled up like that. His mother called us and gave it to us about taking that boy's Timbs. Really? Ma'am, his shoes didn't fit, but they were Timbs. No, She couldn't figure that. She couldn't hear that. No. So those are you know what else we talked about? I talked to black doctors and lawyers, because there's some people who believe that lawyers of a certain religion are better lawyers. Billy Murphy said to me, Warren Brown said to me, if you're going to get convicted, you're going to get convicted no matter what color the lawyer is. If you got a bad case, you got a bad case. I mean, there's just so many things that we need to know about that we don't know about.
Tell me more about Black History. It's Black History Month. You've dropped it. You talked about Brian Gumble, Les Brown, Kathy Hughes, James Brown. I mean, where does it stop? Who inspired you? Brian Gumble. Who else?
Brian Gumble, believe it or not, Tom Snyder. I used to love Tom Snyder because those were conversations. Those were conversations. People want to hear. They want to hear. Everything is not about fire. What did Beverly Burke say to me? If it doesn't bleed, burns, or spit fire, folk don't have but 2 minutes for it on TV. Really? She was very good to that show with those black guys. She was very good. Ford Motor Company was very good to that show with those black guys. NABJ, two-sided. On one hand, they allowed me to do a workshop called What is Public Access Cable and How Does It Work? And I went there and did that. But on the other hand, some of them would turn their noses up. It was a sister by the name of, I know she's still around, but she had a magazine called Sister Magazine. Jamie Foster Brown. Jamie Foster Brown, we did a thing with Ford. And I asked her how connected was she with NABJ? And she said, not really. I said, why? She said, because they turned their noses up at me. She was actually printing a magazine every month. Every month. It may have had Mary J. Blige stuff in it, but guess what? It was a magazine, and she has circulation. And then everything can't be Newsweek. Everybody's not on that level.
Well, I got to tell you, big brother, I remember going to some NABJ event Charles Robinson invited me to. And a woman who was an editor in Florida came up to me, the publisher of BeMoreNews.com, and said, how much do you make? And I said, why? And I learned that she was looking to leave corporate America and start her own. So let me just say to you, big brother, you inspired me to do my own. We're now 20 years in the game. The freedom that comes with having your own, the ability to do what you want, to not have to run it through some editor of another perspective.
Let me tell you something.
It's liberating.
Let me tell you something. Although I know he's not the favorite right now locally, but you know who Kai Jackson. Let me tell you, that brother is so.
Why do you say he's not the favorite locally?
Well, let me tell you, because his station, it's not him. He's just reading the news. He didn't write it. He's just reading it. But let me tell you, that brother came on my show and talked about getting fired. You never hear a TV person say, I got fired. And so, yep, sure did. Kai Jackson said to me that TV is the only business where they will bring in your replacement and make you train them and hope you say something about it.
Radio 2. I saw Radio 1 make Mark Clark train pork chop.
Let me tell you something. Frank Ski said to me at the Morris Mechanic Theater, these are facts. Frank Ski said to me just walking, he said, you know what? It's the only business I know where today's show could be your last show. Really. And that is so true. And that is so true. Tim Watts said that to me also.
But not when you own it.
Not when you own it. Not when you own it. The thing is, when you talk to radio people, you know what they say to you? Don't look at the parking lot and see who's driving what. The talent is not driving the Jags and the Rollses. The salespeople are. Not the talent. Nah, the talent ain't they're driving regular cars because they have to work. They're on salary. But yeah, would I like to do it again? Sure. Do I want to come back? Yeah. But I'm going to have somebody to assist me. And let me tell you something. For a company like BET, to me, I look at them and say, you know what? If that was the answer, I didn't want to know the question. I didn't want to.
So for me, I know what it meant for me. What did BET represent for you? You know what? I'm just going to say it. The damn Cedar character. Cedar, the ghetto Cedar. The little caricature. Oh, my God. I was so sick of that hood rat.
I was in their magazine. And they made it with Tom Joyner on the cover. You know what? But you think they offered me anything other than to come and interview Tavis Smiley, and they had to find the lights. That said it to me when I walked in their studio off of New York Avenue. And it was a setup. We walked in, and the person who was assisting us said, let's turn the lights on in the studio. And they look like us pulling curtains back, looking for the light switch. I'm like, really? If you got all this studio and it's sitting here dark, nah, it's not beneficial. It's not beneficial. Now, if I have to explain to you how I fit in, and my show was on in Atlanta. In Atlanta. You didn't have a show on there, but I did. Yeah, sure. They would always make jokes and say, you're not Oprah. You know what I would tell them? But Oprah ain't taking your calls. I am. I'll take your calls. Yep. You know what? And more people will come to me because she ain't going to have you on her show, but I'll have you on my show. I sure will. And we can talk. Same thing she did, I did. She inspired me. Absolutely, she inspired me. How can I not be from Baltimore, Oprah not inspire me? I saw how they treated her. Yeah, I didn't want to be in that position. I didn't want to be in that position. No, you know, you need to Google that, how WJZ treated Oprah.
So who in your family, where did you get this independent, do for self-empowerment? Was it a grandfather, a grandmother?
Let me tell you something. I look back on this, you know, I have to give God rest her soul, my mother. Let me tell you something. My mother met my father during World War II. And my mother went to Southern in Baton Rouge. And my mother is lighter than I am. And Louisiana is definitely color struck. You got that, right? So they had to figure out how to get from Shreveport, which is where she was from, to Baton Rouge, which is where Southern was. So somebody told her as long as they didn't see her hair, they think she was white. And she could get what she wanted. So she pulled that off and got on the campus. And after she married my father, she took the train from Baton Rouge to Philadelphia. And the porter on the platform said to my mother, the war was over. He said, ma'am, white car to the front, Negro's car to the back. She said she went right on up to the front just like she belonged. And when she got up there, she said if she didn't learn nothing at Southern, she learned that Missouri was a free state. And once she saw that sign saying Missouri, she could then interact with the people because they couldn't put her off the train. Yeah. And then when she got to Philly, she had to meet my dad's sister because the war was still going on. My father wasn't back. So my mother and my grandmother were very, 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 they didn't leave a stone. And my grandmother's sisters, they didn't leave a stone unturned. No, I grew up with people who were hard workers, very hard workers. If we saw something, we didn't want to hustle to get it. We went and got it.
So Harry, when are you going to write the book?
If I write the book, I have to change the names to protect the innocent. When somebody wants to come and get it, I'll give it to them. Sure, it's no problem. You know what, Donnie? I can tell you because I know nobody listens to this thing. I have a Muhammad Ali story.
Come on with it. I got a Muhammad Ali story.
I met Muhammad Ali. Let me tell you when I met him. Very late 60s in LA. My uncle was a guy by the name of Deacon Jones, played football, big football player. And Muhammad Ali's handler at the time was a woman named L. Jean Wilson. And L. Jean Wilson was all that and a bag of chips. She had invited us out to the hotel to see Ali, to see her, because she and my mom are friends. We get out to the hotel and Ali has eyes for somebody in the party. I'll be very like that. And as it turned out, I had to go back that evening with that individual. And there was an interlude. And I got the facts. I verified the facts, yeah, but I remember meeting Ali sitting at that table in the cafe at the Century Plaza Hotel. I remember it vividly. And actually, when I met Howard Bingham was his buddy, press buddy. When I met Howard Bingham did my show, and I told Howard Bingham this story. And he said, how do I know you're telling the truth? I gave him the name that Muhammad Ali used to travel under. You ready? Sophronia Jones. I can't believe I just said that on TV. Sophronia Jones was the name that Ali used to stay in hotel. When he couldn't be Muhammad Ali in the hotel, but he would be Sophronia Jones. That's how.
Who is Sophronia?
The hell I know. Look, I just gave you some black facts. You got it? If you don't want it, leave it there. Okay, but I just gave you some black facts. So
well, tell me about him. Tell me about him, the person. Was he truly great?
Listen, talking to him was like talking to your cousin. This guy, let me tell you, We sat in the cafe at the Century Plaza Hotel, which at the time was a place in LA. In the cafe, he drank a milkshake and a hamburger. That's the kind of guy he was. That's the kind of dude this was. He wasn't pretentious like that. No,
I remember Mr. Evans. He came to Coppin State, and people have heard this story before. What I can never forget is that in the 2500 block of West North Avenue, without bodyguards interfering, he shook everybody's hand. He took his time. He greeted people. It was no rush. It was none of the pretentious stuff that we see in our celebs today, which just leads me, what in the world are we doing today? What, Harry, I have a daughter, and so I'm in media. And so it's very important when I think of images and imagery, there's certain things you're not going to see me doing. We're not going to say the N-word. We're not going to put our women out there looking like strippers or hookers. We're going to bring out the best in Black people, because too often we see the worst.
Let me tell you something. I keep going back to these guys. Remember I said to you earlier that everybody gives me a little nugget. Kai Jackson said to me, you know what? If you don't do nothing at the end of the day, when I'm on the news, call the station and say, I like what he has on or I don't like what he said. Why? Because in order to not like it, you have to watch it. That's the first thing. And the second thing, there is some news producer sitting behind that desk, assignment editor or something, who's from Pocatello, Idaho, who thinks that we can't tell Vic Carter from Kai Jackson. It's just another black guy. Really? You know what? It is still so much racism in that business. I just, it's horrible.
Well, I'm going to compliment Vic Carter right here. He is probably the snazziest black man on local television.
Well, he's been around. Let me tell you, he's the dean now.
He puts his combinations together very well.
This is one of the few cities where you can go and see black anchors. When I go to places, I look to see who are the anchors. At 6 o'clock, I want to turn the 6 o'clock news on and see our brother or a sister sitting up there giving me the facts and figures. That's what I want to see. And I hope in reality that they're making what the other people are making, because, I know when they played us less.
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning here in Baltimore. There was Wally Daniels, there was Maria Broom, there was Edie House. You remember them?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I see Maria Broom still around. It's so funny. When I tell people, you know what, there is a book there from Maria Broom to Beverly Burke to Oprah Winfrey. They all were at the same station. All of them sat at the same station in the same chair. Mm-hmm. And what are the similarities and what are the differences? You know who else? I want to hear?
I love that Maria would go into the community. I'll never forget when somebody kissed her on her face. When I finally met, I said, why you let him kiss you?
You would see her out. You would see her. She was the anchor who was out and about. You would see her not only there, she
was fearless. Fearless.
And for love of me, why is it that black women have a freshness date on them on TV? Really, why is it that black women have a freshness date? They can't get old on TV. People used to make fun of Carol Simpson. Carol Simpson was a consummate journalist at ABC, but here you go. I remember I think it was Maria Broom in DC that they got rid of because she had gotten old, and then 9 got rid of her, and then 7 hired her because of her age and her experience. You know what? Let me tell you, there are a lot of stories there. There's just so much.
Tamron Hall. Tell me what you saw when she left the Today Show. I mean, she was all right on the Today Show, but
I saw racism. You know what? They took her out to bring that other girl in, whatever her name is. They brought her in,
but she persevered anyway.
You know what? Tamron Hall has got. I like where she is now. I love where she is now.
And she wouldn't have gotten there if she didn't persevere. Because to leave the Today Show, who would want to do that? But she put her foot down. I didn't like. She wasn't my favorite on the Today Show because I knew that wasn't her. I knew she had so much more potential, and they were trying to put her in a box.
Well, because you know what? When the only way you see us is that way, you're going to put us in a box. That's racism. You know what? Let me tell you something about TV.
She was so much more. Always has been.
First interracial couple on TV. Who were they?
First
interracial couple on TV. You ready?
No. Captain Kirk and Nicole wasn't black lady. Star Trek.
No. Ricky and Lucy.
Oh, okay. Well, you threw me in that. Babalu. You threw me with Babalu.
They were the first interracial couple. And then one of the studios that did a TV show, I'm not sure what, I think it was ABC, they had a show with an Asian show. And they didn't realize that all Asians were different. The Asians knew it. The Asians knew they had a Vietnamese, a Chinese, and a Korean up there, and they couldn't be in the same family. But that is just how limited they are. They don't know African American. You know why the Cosby Show, one of the reasons it was so successful? That was something they had never seen. Think of this, from Good Times to the Cosby Show. Think of that gap.
Bill, so you are stroking the genius of Bill Cosby because it was ingenious.
Let me tell you something. He just was in the right place at the right time. Right place at the right time. But I tell you something, I do realize, I'm like you, I've been around, and there's things that go on. When Bill Cosby, with all his money and fame, when he was white hot with Cosby, with the Cosby Show, when NBC was drinking his bath water like tea, cold, they didn't care. You know what? When they wouldn't let him buy NBC, I knew then that there was something up. There was something up. There was a dead cat on the line. I'll tell you somebody else that I want to interview. I want to interview her right now to see what she got to say. And she might give me an interview. You ready? Wendy. I want to talk to Wendy. See what Wendy's got to say.
We can make that happen.
Listen, let me tell you something, because somebody in LA.
Conan was just on this show a couple of days ago, and he talked about taking her to her first interview up there in New York, where she got the gig.
Well, I know this. I watched the movie. And I did see how when she had interaction with Miss Hughes, how Miss Hughes kind of looked down on her. And I kind of felt that way. Yeah, there are a couple people in the media around Baltimore that although my show was on and I had viewers, people were watching my show. I had viewers. No, it wasn't all that it should be, but I didn't have all that I didn't have all. If you didn't like it, come help me. Don't criticize. Come help me. No, didn't want to. First thing they asked for, can you pay me? You know what? You get that from Channel 45. Don't get it from me. You know what? Ted Holtzclaw, who's God rest his soul, who used to be the engineering man at Channel 2, he came and did my first sound. Why? Because I want to help you. He didn't ask for a dime. But so quick were to ask, well, what can I get out of this? You know what you can get? If I become successful, so do you. This was a no-brainer to me. And let me tell you, for all that's worldly, I don't understand why they couldn't see. This Negro has got a TV show that people are watching. And he's doing it out of the back of a Blazer. People were watching out of the back of a Blazer. And they didn't want to invest in that. Then you know what? You go ahead and do what you do. You get pop off on there and that miracle water. Go ahead, get that.
So look, we got 9 minutes. I want to wind down on the first black president. Where were you? What did you think? Imagery, first nuclear black family in the White House, father, mother, no baby mama, no child support.
And I kind of think he watched the show. You know why?
He used my line. I know damn well he watched my show. He used my line.
Let me tell you this, because the show was on DC.
My brother's keeper.
The show was on DC Cable. And if you understand cable is a wire. It's a wire in the wall. So the White House was on DC Cable. That was one. And the second was I had Eric Holder on the show. And I know if Eric Holder was on, that would hold his attention. Let me tell you one thing. They have all these TV experts. One of the things I suggested to the cable people is, you know what? You need to change the timing. Because
when you say TV experts, are they black?
Nope. You know what? The TV critic from the Baltimore Sun said about my show that he wasn't sure whether the show was good and interesting or whether it was a testament to my ability to promote it. Really? The problem is when black people speak to you, in intelligence, you don't want to hear it. You think that we're supposed to entertain you, to make you laugh. There's nothing funny about this. You and I both know how much business in our community gets done in the barbershop. Yep. We both know the importance of the barbershop and the conversations in there. We both know that, but if you've never been to a black barbershop, you don't understand. And for the love of me, one of the things I don't understand now is when we went to the barbershop, what was sitting on that little table right in front of where you were waiting to get your haircut? What was sitting on the table, Donnie?
It was magazines, newspapers, Afro, Black Enterprise.
What magazine was it?
We had Ebony.
No, you had Ebony and Jet. You had Ebony and Jet.
Ebony and Jet, yeah.
Let me tell you something. People don't know. You could, and here's the beauty of Jet, and I wish they could bring Jet back. You could pick up Jet, and no matter when you read Jet, you always said, I didn't know that. Because there was always something in Jet that you didn't know, because it was evergreen.
You speak to my heart, big brother. You speak to my heart.
Else, and in Jet, the Jet centerfold.
Yes. Please don't forget that.
Let me tell you something. The guy who took the pictures was a guy by the name of Lamont McLemore. Lamont McLemore was one of the Fifth Dimensions. He was one of the Fifth Dimensions. Pick up a Jet and look and see who took the picture. Lamont McLemore. Yep. That was something that went on your tombstone. But everybody knew how to read back in the day because they had a Jet. You go to barbershop.
I saw a girl in there she had a bathing suit and she was in a Fiat. I get to Morehouse and she's right over there at Spelman. I'm like, this cat has been everywhere. But take me to this because we got 5 minutes or so. I want to get to the significance of your body of work, what you have hoped to contribute to Black media. And I want you to speak to our young people and I'll just fall back.
You can do this. The images that are out there are images that they've decided they want to see for us, how they want to prep this. You can do this. I did it. I did it on a government salary in the back of a Blazer. Just got interviews. I didn't have any ulterior motives. I wasn't trying to hype, belittle, promote, berate. That wasn't where I was. But every Black person's got a story. Every Black man has got a story. No matter how wonderful your job is, it's got some things about it that you don't like. And in order for us to be better members of society, our kids need to hear this, that every day in your job is not going to be wonderful. Everybody's not going to be drinking your Kool-Aid. You need to understand that there are going to be good days and bad days. And you understand when you die on a hill and when you don't die on a hill. You and I both know you pick your fights. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? And if you believe in something, go with it. I believed in the show. And let me give you some other prop. Let me tell you who else helped me. Alpha Phi Alpha. Let me tell you why. Because if you understand cable access, the first question they'd always ask me to disqualify me is, who do you know who lives in our jurisdiction that would co-sign as a resident for your show? Well, you know what? I'm an Alpha. And let me just tell you this. What little you know about
1906.
Let me tell you, and that King Memorial in D.C. How about that? And I can tell you this, when I get to cities like St. Louis, if I want to find the Negroes with the big houses, I find the Alphas. And all they want you to do is tell them what they can't do. What you mean I can't get your show on in my jurisdiction because of what? That's all they had to hear. That's all they had to hear because there is still racism there, but I have to credit them because the brothers stepped up in places like LA, Cleveland, which is incredible. Detroit, which is incredible. That Detroit cable market, Houston, those markets are huge. I'm talking about 4, 5, and 6 million homes. Absolutely. And also it didn't hurt that I have a Black product.
So what do we have to do to get you to come back? What can we do to help you?
Either tell you know what? Somebody needs to tap Miss Kathy Hughes or her son, Mr. Leggett. On
you
the
done called her names now. She ain't taking my calls. I'm complicit with you. I'm your rap buddy.
I'm black, and I thought about that. But sometimes we use colloquialisms in our community. And I'm known for calling somebody a heifer. That heifer did this. That heifer did that. I know it's not appropriate, but here you go. I'm talking to my buddy. I'm drinking your coffee in Upton, And let me just bust some.
Sandtown. This is Sandtown. Sandtown.
West Baltimore. And this was a good cable market for me, an excellent cable market for me. But I still don't get these abandoned houses. And you know what? When I go pull my Vic Carter interview up, he talked about that when he first came to Baltimore. That was one of the things.
It's been an ongoing struggle. When the three firefighters, 2 firefighters and paramedic got killed last year, I just knew that there would be some type of task force implemented. But we're clear that our politicians could give a rat's bottom about us.
Tone deaf, totally tone deaf.
And they hide behind that word above you, black. I'm black. I'm black. No, you're not. You're a liar. Your feet stink. You don't love Jesus, and you go around smelling girls' bicycle seats. Get the hell out of here.
You know who I want to talk to? I'd like to talk to Jack Young. I want to talk to. There are interviews out there.
I just saw him. He was down there protesting the Baltimore Gas and Electric, getting a conduit system for the city of Baltimore for pennies on the dollar.
Sound like a good deal to me. Sound like a good deal. You know, they can figure that out, but they can't figure out.
It's good for BG&E.
Let me tell you, they can figure that out, but they can't figure out. They can't figure out how to keep that boys. I want to talk to Edwin Avant. You know why? Because I do know that school situation there. And this man is actually putting kids through school, and they talking to him about forms. You know what? If you paid somebody that same $60,000 that you paying somebody on North Avenue to come and sit in his school, his forms would be exactly right. Let me tell you something, because everybody, I'm old enough to remember when they called that Alice's Palace. Do you remember that?
Alice Penderhughes. The school across the street from here was named after Penderhughes.
They called it Alice's Palace, and they were talking about them $2,000 and $3,000 rugs they had, and there was always this controversy. But now, you know what? They don't. My stepsister, God rest her soul, she was a truant officer back in the day at the magnificent Lake Clifton High School. They used to answer the phone and say it just that way. Thank you for calling the magnificent Lake Clifton High School. It was all that in a bag of chips. And she was a truant officer. That was a CETA job. Her job was to go knock on doors and find these kids. You know what? She'd knock on the door and find the kids. And she'd take this information back to the secretary. And the secretary look at her like, we don't want that child back. Please. They didn't want him back. They have all those experts and a bank of phones. And when I saw them with a bank of phones in the truant room, that's your problem. You got a bank of phones. You need to have truant officers out there knocking on doors. Something else, when I see somebody during the day on a corner with a kid panhandling, somebody needs to stop and ask them, how come that child is not in school? Why? Why is that child not in school? It's not like you have to pay for it. What is the situation? I see things. I see things that I want to ask questions. There's so many interviews I would like to have. Oh, yeah. Could I do it? Could I bring it back and do it quickly? Yeah, absolutely. But I would need some help. Yeah, absolutely. And I
will help you. And you helped me, and you never denied me access. Never. You never denied me access, ever.
You know what? Howard Hewitt told me, you know what? That Negro you saw at the car wash might be the very one that gives you the gold record. Howard Hewitt told me that. That Negro you see at the car wash might be the very one. What is this situation with there's this whole thing with Jack A, the actress Jack A, and Cheryl Lee Ralph. They were talking about how they treated interns in their come up, because they both have become great icons. Cheryl Lee Ralph is the thing now. She's white hot. Well, Jack A said that when she was doing one of these shows and her script runner would bring her script every day, she would purposefully be nasty to the script runner. Person would bring her the script. She'd be horrible to this person.
Why?
No. Because that's what you're supposed to be. And then Cheryl Lee Ralph said, I was
Who said that? I don't find that to be true.
Well, let me tell you, Jack A said it, and then Jack A said, I was terrible to this particular person, and this person didn't mind when I came in for an audition, didn't mind saying, remember who I am? Remember me? You were terrible to me when I used to bring you your scripts. Okay, we'll see. You're not getting this role, old girl. You got it. So you know what? The feet you step on today might be attached to the ass you'll be kissing tomorrow.
Be nice to people. It's no reason. My mother said, God don't like ugly and could care less for beauty. Treat people the way you want to be treated.
Exactly. And that was the one thing I didn't have when I did my show, I had no ulterior motives. You know, we did it. We had fun. It was a learning experience. I enjoyed it because the other thing is people told me what I couldn't do. You can't do this. Oh, really? You ain't the only one that can make a tape. You ain't the only one that can do this. No. And in fact, if you were better at it, you'd have better ratings. But they're not that good at it. They'll hire somebody from Sioux Falls, West Dakota to come into Baltimore to call it Tosin, before they'll bring one of us over there to actually, we know the people. We'll get a better story out of them because we're from here. We know the people. We know the history of the place. That doesn't but here you go, when you bring in somebody to set up your newsroom who comes to Baltimore because this is where their job is, number one, and they decide they want to live in a certain area and don't know the character of the communities. Yeah. There you get what you get what you asked for. You get what you asked for. Sure, I got it. But since you know so much, you go ahead. If they all go out of business, I don't have no sympathy for them. No sympathy for them. None whatsoever.
It is important that we have black media. It is important that we have a voice because we matter. And that's why we do this network.
The Afro and the Sentinel and the Chicago Defenders. If I couldn't get press anywhere, I got press there. We had Wanda Draper on yesterday. If I didn't get black press, I believe in the Afro. I believe in the Afro. You know what? And one of the things I don't like about living in Howard County is I can't find the Afro in Howard County. That's number one. And number two, I can't find pork skins out there.
All right, we gotta go. We gotta get up out of here. But I can take you around the corner and get your bag of pork skins if you want.
Did I say pork skins? Yeah. I love you, brother. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.